¿Cómo te llamas?
Mi nombre es María.
Oh,
Me llamo María.
Ujú. ¿Cómo estás?
¿Bien?
Oh,
Estoy bien.
Estoy bien, bien. ¿De dónde eres?
De Estados Unidos.
Soy de... repite, soy de
Soy de
los Estados Unidos.
los Estados Unidos.
Ujú. ¿Nosotros vivimos en Wisconsin o no?
No,
¿Dónde?
en Estados Unidos.
Ajá, ¿en Wisconsin o otro estado?
Otro estado.
¿Cuál? ¿Minnesota, Norte Dakota? ¿Dónde?
Minnesota.
Minnesota, bien. ¿Cuántos años tienes, María?
5 años.
Ujú. Tengo 5 años.
Tengo 5 años.
Ujú. ¿Cuál es tu comida favorita?
Mi comida favorita es sopita.
Qué rico, delicioso. Muy bien, chócalas. ¿Dónde estás? Ok, ahí estás. Adiós. Muy bien, compañeros. Hopefully you understood some of that conversation with my daughter. Those are going to be the sort of 5 main learning targets that we've addressed up to this point in class. How I'm going to start this EdPuzzle today is to ask you to name 3 things that you learned about my daughter in that video, okay? So write down 3 things. You can write them in English because we have not learned how to state information in the third person yet. So write in English 3 things you understood from that conversation piece. Muy bien. So I asked my daughter, ¿Cómo te llamas? And her first response was, Mi nombre es María. Well, my daughter's first language, I would say, the language she speaks the most is English, so her brain wants to translate my name is Maria. So she went with this one, Mi nombre es María. But she knows how to say Me llamo María, and that's sort of what I prompted her to say afterwards. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, of course. Most people would just say bien, but in class I try to elicit the complete sentence structures. So estoy bien is what I'm looking for. See? ¿De dónde eres? You heard my daughter struggle with pronunciation of Los Estados Unidos. Unfortunately, for a 5-year-old, me breaking down the vowels and explaining how easy it is to really say a word like that does not work. So she does much better with just listen and repeat. And the phrase Estados Unidos is not one that she is very familiar with. But again, I did have to elicit that complete sentence structure. Escucha y repite. Soy de los Estados Unidos, ¿sí? Y ella comprende que ella vive en Minnesota, ella no vive en Wisconsin. Yo soy de Wisconsin, pero María es de Minnesota y nosotros vivimos en Minnesota, pero mi madre vive en Wisconsin y nosotros viajamos mucho a Wisconsin, ¿sí? ¿Comprendes? I'm from Wisconsin, and both of my parents live in Wisconsin, so Maria knows, though. We travel to Wisconsin, and we're not from there. She's from Minnesota. She lives in Minnesota, but we travel to Wisconsin a lot, ¿sí? Muy bien. ¿Cuántos años tienes? María dice 5 años. Otra vez yo busco frase completa, por favor. Tengo 5 años, ¿sí? ¿Y cuál es tu comida favorita? This will be the brand new learning piece today. So if you did not understand what she was saying there, ¿cuál es tu comida favorita? You probably did not figure out what we were talking about. She said, mi comida favorita es sopita. Now, when you see the other answer possibilities, you will probably figure out that we're asking about something about food, and then you see the favorita, the cognate, and you can probably figure out that we're asking, what is your favorite food? So she says, mi comida favorita es sopita o sopa, which is also a cognate, sopa, but making it into a demonstrative noun form and adding the ita at the end makes it sound less like a cognate. So sopita, sopa, soup. She loves Panera. Chicken noodle soup from Panera is like her all-time favorite. When I make it, of course, it's not as great, but if we go to a Panera restaurant, por favor, yo quiero sopita, papá. Sí. Muy bien, compañeros. Vamos a practicar una vez más. Números 1, 2, 3 y 4. Aquí. Practicar 1, 2, 3 y 4. I'll ask you the question and I want you to write the response out using your own personal information. ¿Sí? Número 1. ¿Cómo te llamas? Número 2. ¿Cómo estás? Número 3. ¿De dónde eres? Y número 4. ¿Cuántos años tienes? Bien. Ahora, compañeros, número 5. This leads us into the brand new question of today. ¿Cuál es tu comida favorita? ¿Cuál es tu comida favorita? See? Again, I kind of explained this earlier since this question was asked in the intro video with my daughter. Comida, food, favorita, favorite. So your favorite food. Later this week in class, we'll go over a variety of foods. I just put a few common ones that students usually ask for. Pizza is pizza. Pasta is pasta. Ensalada is a cognate. It has the word salad in it. Ensalada. Hamburguesa, an obvious cognate when you see it written. Not as much when you hear it spoken. And then, of course, if your favorite foods are like, Mexican foods or Hispanic foods, they will carry the same name in English. For example, taco, enchilada, quesadilla. For example, taco, enchilada, quesadilla, tamales, fajitas, cosas así. Muy bien. So, I will ask you, ¿cuál es tu comida favorita? And what you can do is respond here in complete sentence form. Mi comida favorita es. And if you'd like, remember that website from last week. It's still linked in Google Classroom from last week. You could look up in wordreference.com the name of a food. Why don't you go ahead and do that? If your favorite food is not one of these, or a Hispanic food that you already know the name of, go ahead and look it up in wordreference.com. And then when you have it, go ahead and respond to this question. ¿Cuál es tu comida favorita? Bien, clase. Cuaderno, ¿sí? We'll have our final question for the cuaderno here. For Tarea Uno, we'll wrap up Tarea Uno today. So if you can go ahead, take out your cuaderno. And this is the fifth and final question for Tarea Uno, Preguntas y Respuestas. So you can jot this one down wherever you have space. If you have to go on to the next page, remember inside of the page you were writing on, right, to conserve space. The question, ¿cuál es tu comida favorita? And the response, mi comida favorita es. Bien, if you need a little bit of extra time, go ahead and pause. Bien, clase, y finalmente, the final part of today's lesson is going to be, it's attached to Google Classroom on today's assignment. It is a quiz-is, called a quiz-is, not Quizlet. It's kind of like Quizlet, kind of like Kahoot, but it's its own thing, quizzes. So click on that link in Google Classroom, and you'll see there's just a 12 question, you could consider it a mini quiz, okay? You can take it as many times as you'd like to, preferably continue taking it until you get a perfect score. As you can see, some of the questions are translating Spanish to English. Some questions are questions in Spanish, asking how would you respond to this question in Spanish. A few questions about countries, capitals, things like that. See? Mainly the 5 basic questions and responses. So that is the final part of today. When you finish writing in your cuaderno, you finish answering all these questions in EdPuzzle, you can now go ahead, go back into Google Classroom and click on the link for quizzes. And like I say, practice makes perfect. Take it as many times as you need to until you get a perfect score. Muy bien, compañeros, muchas gracias. When you do finish this, of course, I always recommend Duolingo as a study tool for students who finish work early in class. Gracias. Hasta mañana.